but we will talk baseball because Carolina is 8 days from throwing the first pitch at Founders Park. We'll discuss a little bit about things going on elsewhere in the SEC as well. And Coach, there was a development release a couple of days ago, so we might hit on that a little bit as well. But also, today is opening day for Ashley Chastain and the South Carolina softball team. It's her first year as the head coach. She played and wore that uniform. Very valuable. We exchanged some texts last night. She's fired up, ready to go. So we'll get into some of that here in just a little bit as well. Hale McGranahan will join us later. We've got a big recruiting update to get across to everybody for Gamecock football. We'll talk some hoops, mix in some Super Bowl, and have some fun on a Thursday afternoon. But Coach, glad to have you, man. I know it's not Friday. We're getting close, but anytime we get with you, we're always happy to get it.
No, I appreciate you making an adjustment. Yeah, we're on the road heading down to Jacksonville, a little junior college baseball tournament. So excited to get to talk to you today, and a big day for Gamecock softball. Just super excited for Ashley and that crew. They put a lot of work in since she came on board in June.
Yeah, they sure have. They'll open tonight for anybody that wants to make it out there. 6 o'clock first pitch against Virginia. It is game one of the Gamecock Invitational. Tomorrow they'll play at 2:30. We'll actually be at that game and watch them play the Wahoos again. And then they've got a double dip on Saturday, 3:30 and 6 o'clock first pitches or thereabouts. Providence and St. Francis. And then on Sunday they'll play East Carolina. That is the Gamecock Invitational. And in typical softball fashion, the next 2 weekends following this, the first 3 weekends of the season, they are all tournaments, and they are all over at the ballpark. So we hope that you can get out there and watch Ashley and her team. If you just enjoy softball, I think it's supposed to be really nice weather and warm. So if you just enjoy softball, or you're looking for something to do with your family that's rather inexpensive, to be quite frank, tomorrow games start at 9:30 a.m. and run all the way to about 9:30 p.m. that night. Saturday they start at 10:30 and run to about 8 p.m. And Sunday they start at 10 a.m. and run to about 5. So it's going to be a lot of softball. Hopefully the Gamecocks get out of there unscathed. Carolina, Coach, was 36-24 last year. That's not a bad record. It was the 8-16 in the just dreaded SEC that kind of prompted the change, as we all well know. Virginia was actually in this tournament last year. Carolina played them twice, and they swept them. So they're going to look to do that again. But you mentioned Ashley. We've had her on multiple times, and I was texting back and forth with her a little bit last night. She's ready to go, man. It's so kid in a candy store stuff. It kind of reminds me of when Shane got here a few years ago, just fired up to throw that uniform on and go out there and watch her kids play.
Yeah, she was in. We all had the cafeteria there on campus, and she got me yesterday. I'm disappointed that I can't be there for her opener. Just worked out that it's one of those weekends where Hayden, my son, and them are on the road. But I told her, I felt like an old coach yesterday. I said, it's just time to start. Once that first pitch is thrown, all the fundraising and recruiting and worrying about uniforms, all that stuff gets to go decide. And that's when she kind of smiled and said, I know, I'm just ready for it to start. Because home series is always hard to open up too. You ticket requests, families coming in. It's just so many different things you're trying to put together. And when you finally hear play ball in that first pitch, you just kind of get to exhale, and then it becomes normal again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, hopefully they make winning normal this year as well in her inaugural season as the head coach. Congratulations to Ashley. I can't help but say Ashley Chastain. I know she got married to Robert Woodard, and it's Ashley Woodard technically, but she's Ashley Chastain to me, so we'll just keep it that way. But we encourage everybody to go out there, and I'll Coach linked me up yesterday with Sweet Meg in the Gamecock Club, because my kids were gifted Junior Gamecock Club memberships, and so we talked yesterday, Coach, and got those. They were gifted under someone else we had to move them under my account. What I didn't realize, and for anybody that's got kids, listen very, very closely. What I didn't realize is that there are 2 dedicated baseball games and 2 dedicated softball games to whoever you've got in the Junior Gamecock Club. I've got 2 kids, so we get 2 tickets. And they don't cheat you on this. In softball, the two that you get are top 10 teams, or the tickets you get, my two, however many kids you guys, how many you'll get, Texas Tech and Alabama. And to make it even better than that, I claim those because she told me yesterday, she said, well, if you get the tickets, you also get a discounted rate on however many tickets you want to go with that. I said, oh, really? Well, what's that? $4. $4. So I said, well, give me 4 of them. So we've got 6 tickets to go watch Carolina softball against Alabama and Texas Tech when they come to town. And on the baseball side, you get them to the Sunday game this weekend for Sacred Heart. And then you also get them for it's a big one. I can't remember the name. I can't remember who it is now. Do you know? It's off the top of your head.
So I'm kind of listening to you if I can pass on information.
I just blanked on who it is. I wanted to say Florida, but it's not, because when Alabama's here playing Carolina in softball, Coach, they play at noon, and Carolina and Florida in baseball play at 4. So I'm like, well, I'll just go up that weekend and we'll knock it all out. Yeah. But it's not Florida, but it is a big series, and I'll have to go back and check it out. But this is awesome. So get your kids in the Junior Gamecock Club, start adding up those points, and when they get to be adults like us, they'll be able to get all the perks and be miserable like we are when we go to Williams-Brice Stadium sometimes.
Yeah. Well, there's some cool stuff too. If you look on your Junior Gamecock, they're going to do a movie in Williams-Brice.
Yep, we're going to that.
We had 700 plus already RSVP'd.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, it's almost, as I joked the other day, may have to do a double feature, because you're going to be on the field watching a movie on the big screen, and it's just the Junior Gamecock Club, I think, maybe the best bargain that you can find in our university for what you get. And it connects not only obviously to kids, but it connects parents that may not have realized what you can do as a family at some of these events. And Meg, Thomas, Simone, all of them that do the work, the best people in the world. So when you call them, it's awesome how excited they get with it, and what they do with the Junior Gamecock Club is really cool. And since you jumped us ahead to May 2nd, 4th weekend, that's going to be Gamecock Baseball Alumni Weekend. Yep. So we've got in the planning to honor our 1975 team, which was the first World Series team. Coach Richardson was the head coach. Get to honor them on that Friday night. Then that Saturday, I think it's May 3rd, all the baseball alumni be invited back to get recognized and just hang out again. So a lot of cool events that are reconnecting our baseball alumni this year back to the program. And with a guy like Coach Mainieri, is just so fun. You go to him and he's like, yes, that's what I want. And the connections. How about this is cool? The 75 team, 2 guys played on it who played for his dad. And then he told me Ed Lynch, who was on that team, was a senior at his high school when he was a freshman. So that was a slam dunk when I said, hey, can we get something? And Coach Richardson hopefully better throw out a first pitch. So a lot of cool stuff going on all season with Gamecock baseball, beside the baseball on the field, which will be a really fun season.
It should be a really fun season. By the way, on that Junior Gamecock Club membership, $40 a year. That's it. $40, as Coach mentioned. It's the bargain of the century when it comes to Carolina. As it pertains to baseball, and talking about Coach Mainieri, he was with us yesterday, did break a little bit of news that Dylan Eskew will get the ball Game 1 next Friday. And the lefty, the seasoned vet, the local kid, Matthew Becker, will try it out there on Saturday. And we'll see if they can hang on to those roles moving forward. It's a little bit TBD on Sunday, although it's a small group, it seems, that he's selecting from. Eli Jerzenbeck is in that. McCoy is in that. So we'll see what happens. He also mentioned the big kid, JUCO transfer, Brendan Sweeney, seems to have the upper hand right now on being the closer for this group. So we'll see. But he mentioned it. I'm going to fast forward to the back half of the 30 minutes that we had yesterday, Coach, because I think that there was something very authentic and refreshing for the University of South Carolina and its fans that happened in the last couple of minutes that he spoke with us yesterday. He totally embraces the expectations. Now, he went to LSU, so you didn't really have much of a choice but to embrace him down there. And, of course, he won a national championship. he's not scared of that at all. He's not scared to say it's a disappointment if we're not in Omaha. He's not scared to tell everybody this is one of the best programs in the country. He's not scared to look at these 14th and 15th SEC selections and say that's a bunch of hogwash and it's laughable. I watch my kids every day. I know what it looks like. These guys are much better than that. But you know, he spent a couple of minutes, I felt like you'd be sitting across from him at a restaurant or at a bar, directly talking to the fans of the University of South Carolina's proud baseball program and saying, I understand what your expectations are. Those are also my expectations, and we're going to go out there and get it done. It's especially when you walk into a new program in year one and you've been around a long time. I'm not calling anybody out by name. This happens everywhere, all across the country. Sometimes it's hard to walk into those expectations and not be a little apprehensive. He is quite the opposite of that.
Yeah, it's a joy for me because he's so confident in what he's done and what his beliefs and system are that he allows you to share ideas. And every time it seems that I get to go over there, it's fun. And it's fun for me because he's a baseball guy. I got him last week. I got to hear Tommy Lasorda's story, which I try to pull one out every time because I was a huge Tommy Lasorda fan. But he's he's so confident in what he has accomplished. I do think with age, and he and I joke with age, you know who you are. That's who he is. He's not faking it. He's a guy that believes that this program is supposed to win as I do. And that's why he and I, when I talk about I want to bring back this team or these alliance, he's like, please, I want to get to know them. I want them to know what we're doing. We're going to start back the alumni event in the fall that used to just be a staple of this program and kind of gone away because of him. If he'd have said, Stuart, I don't know if I really want to be a part of that, I wouldn't have wanted to be a part of it because I know that he is going to be the key to these guys when they come back. And as I said, in another week, you know, JB, we've put in over 300 ticket requests for that opening weekend for alumni and their family.
Right.
That's just the 16 years that Coach Tanner was here.
Right.
Let's not forget the years that Coach Raines was here. Let's go back a little for Coach Richardson. We go ahead. We can go with Coach Holbrook and Coach Kingston. You got some tremendous people who were tremendous players that we're really trying to reconnect back to this program because I know there's a lot of recruiting gurus. If your alumni are on board, it helps recruiting. Mm-hmm. And when you've got the likes of Whit Merrifield, Jackie Bradley, Justin Smoke, I just keep naming them, Landon Powell, they just walk through your locker room to where your players, Christian Walker yesterday talking to the team, that's what's supposed to be normal in Gamecock baseball. We've had 51 guys playing the big leagues. Those guys are just walking through your building. If nothing else, you can just watch how they act. And you can watch them work out in their preseason leading to going up. I walked down there last week, and there's 3 big leaguers throwing in the bullpen to a big league catcher. You know, it's just if you just open your eyes around the program right now, there's so many things you can learn. And then you got a guy leading it who there ain't a lot of guys anymore at my age that when they talk, I kind of go, I want to hear what he's saying. It might be, okay. This dude talks, I love listening because I know what he's been through from Air Force to Notre Dame to LSU, now over here. And never forget his dad, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's, is the greatest junior college coach in the history of junior college baseball, maybe, for what he did at Miami-Dade. So there's a lot to be learned, and you can hear me, I think, a little bit. I get excited just talking about it again.
Yeah, his stories. I mean, I had a bunch of pats on the back yesterday for that interview. I'm like, for what? I asked him 3 questions in 30 minutes. He just, you know, the honesty is so refreshing. You know, we've got a lot of that right now in Columbia, South Carolina. You know, Shane Beamer is pretty point blank honest about things. Clearly, there's going to be some things he just can't share with folks. Right. But you ask him a question, he answers it. We know that Don's honest. You know, Lamont Paris, and now you got, you know, Paul Mainieri, Ashley Chastain. There's so much authenticity in the athletics department. I credit that to Coach Tanner because he's pretty authentic himself. Mainieri did mention yesterday we were talking about Coach Tanner, and I mentioned to him, I said, next weekend's got to be interesting for you, right? Because you're opening it up as the head coach here for the first time. But the next day, there's going to be a couple hundred players out there honoring the best to ever do it in Coach Tanner. And he, again, he just totally embraces it. This is awesome. I want all these guys here. But he went on to say he wants to be the fourth best coach in the history of the program. The fourth best. That's how much respect he's got for Coach Tanner and Coach Raines and Coach Richardson. And that is no disrespect at all to anybody else, like my dear friend Chad Holbrook and Coach Kingston, and you could go on and on and on. But obviously those guys have achieved so many things that a lot of everybody else just wasn't able to do, and they know that. And he says he wants to be the fourth best coach here. I didn't have enough time to remind him, if you win a national championship, that quickly vaults you into the top two. And those other guys will be happy to give up their spots on the rung if that happens.
Yeah, there's no question about that. It's a who's who, of coaches. And when they get to come back around, I love it when Coach Richardson here. Obviously, I'm in Sumter a lot. My son playing at USC Sumter, get to see him. They play on Bobby Richardson Field. And then you get to, see Coach Tanner. He's kind of, I guess, moving into this new role, which has been cool because I get to talk to him a lot more, a lot less meetings, and a lot more talking about, baseball and our players, getting to go to lunch with guys to reconnect some, which has been fun. When you get him on here, I'm encouraging him. I hope he goes to spring training because as I told him, you ain't got many years left of having your guys there. Hopefully Witt's re-signing, but Christian's going to be there. They're going to be in Florida. So hopefully that group, he'll get to enjoy it, which he's never done. So, as a baseball guy, I mean, it's you use the word kid in a candy store. To me, as a baseball person, that's what it can be when you go to Founders a lot of days.
Coach, it's 10:21. We need to step aside for a quick timeout. Founders will be full next week, and so we're gonna talk about what we know about this team now, coming off of what Coach Mainieri said yesterday as well, and we'll hit on a couple of other things here quickly at the University of South Carolina and get you out of here. It is Thursday. It's not Friday. Don't fool yourselves. That is Coach Lake. It is Thursday. We've got him a little bit early this week. And we're brought to you by our friends at Gamecock Traditions. Get your Carolina baseball and your Carolina softball gear. It is there. GamecockTraditions.com. You can order it and get it in time before opening day next weekend, or just go see them like we're going to do this weekend. The Village at Sandhill are over in Lexington. Gamecock Traditions proudly presenting our programming. We'll be right back. And you use your back porch as much as we do. You'll want to make sure that you don't get a splinter in your ass. Pardon my French, Coach. But if you've got crappy outdoor furniture, you want to go to the guy that has the best outdoor furniture, and that is our dear friend Aaron Beasley, a great Gamecock ambassador himself. And they have 4 locations to make sure that your outdoor area is the best that it could possibly be. And a reminder, when your kids spill chocolate milk on it, you can pour bleach on that, and it will just come right out. It doesn't ruin the fabric or anything. It's amazing. So head to palmcasual.com and stop in and see one of their 4 locations. They've got the newest one down in the Bluffton area. Coach and I were actually talking about Beaufort yesterday. Mm-hmm. So, Coach, it's becoming clear. I think, matter of fact, Will Crow and I, after the show yesterday, we played a little game. Here, I'll tell you what, I'll read it to you. And I might not be right because I'm not the head coach. So more than likely, I'm probably not right. But if I had to guess, the lineup would look like this. Nathan Hall would lead off and be in center field. Henry Katzmar will hit second as of, I think, today. That I know he's had a couple of tough ABs here early on, but I think they like him there in the 2-hole and play short.
And he's hit there every scrimmage I've been to, and I think I've been to all of them.
Right. Baseball America doesn't think that this guy's an All-American, but we sure as hell do. Ethan Petrie will hit in the 3-hole and play first to open the season. Jones will hit cleanup and DH. I've got Mayshore at 5, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's Talmadge based on how he's hitting almost 500 in the preseason. But I've got Mayshore at 5, Tal at 6, Naraki at 7 and at second. Mayshore, by the way, I've got right field. Scobie hitting in the 8-hole at third, and then Blake Jackson hitting in left field, or hitting ninth and in left field. Am I close?
I think you're very close. I know Naraki, if the knee is good, I think that's who they really want at second base, especially to start the year. And he hit a home run the other day when I was out there and just seemed to be moving comfortable. I didn't see any reason, but I don't see a lot of the stuff. I got there early the other day, though. It's at the point now I'm really not as concerned about scrimmages because it is what it is, and I knew who was pitching. So I just got there early the other day and watched infield and watched BP. And the guys you just named, I think are going to be opening day. But the one guy that I like, who you didn't mention, who I know never does well in the preseason, and heck, sometimes didn't do well before SEC, Will Tippett. I think Tippett is going to be a part of this team just because of his makeup. He's a guy that's gone through injuries. He's gone through being recruited over. He's gone through not playing. And still, every time you're around him at the ballpark, he's a good dude. Mm-hmm. And I just watch. I get there to see who shows up early. He's always there early. So this is me, and I don't know any more than you're saying you do. I could see Tippett eventually sliding into that first base position. That Agreed. Ethan Petrie get back out to right field, which I really still feel is his best spot because it allows him just to be a hitter. And then don't forget, and Coach said it in his preseason press conference, you still got Bo Hollins, the freshman, who can slide in there late in the game. So if you think maybe Tippett's a little bit of, I'm not sure defensively, let him get out of there in about the seventh or eighth inning. If you can't put the freshman Bo Hollins, who they've just constantly talked about, I've watched Bo as you have his whole career, maybe he becomes that late inning defensive guy. But I feel like lineup-wise, you got a pretty good chance to really get after it. I don't know, beside Ethan, who will, quote, be the power guys. I know Kennedy Jones is showing that he can. The other guys show that they can too in BP, and I've seen a couple in games. But I think you've got that. I think you got it pretty close to being the lineup that I would have on the field as well.
I'll just pass that along to Coach them and go ahead and let him. So. All right, I'm glad you brought up Tippett. I'm gonna bring up another one in Evan Stone. These guys, you pull for all of them, and so I don't mean any disrespect in any way, shape, or form to anybody else at all. But gosh, if you're gonna pull a little bit extra for a couple of guys, those are two that I'm pulling for. I know if you cut them open, it's garnet and black blood that's coming out. They'll do anything you ask. You mentioned how good of a kid Will Tippett is. Same thing with Evan Stone. Like, these are the kids that I can't even believe I'm saying this because mine are almost 6. You want your daughters to date these type of kids. That's how good these kids are. Yeah. And there is a role for both of them. They're both going to play. There's no doubt. And I just threw that out there as the opening day just based on kind of what I heard and based on what Coach was saying. Let me ask you, okay, real quick. And you mentioned Bo Hollins. I love the plan with him, by the way. They're trying to get him. I think they've got a date in mind. Like, we need to get him here by that point in time. Let me ask you something specific to baseball. We'll have Monty on probably early next week, and I'll pick his brain a little bit more on this. You put your coach's hat on. This is the fun stuff for the dirt bags like yourself and myself. This strike zone is really shrunk, and there are no more corners or anything like that. One of the things that has been a focus of this team is to be disciplined within it. Don't expand it. And last year, I would say the average baseball fan probably doesn't know how to look at the numbers. Walks were way up. Strikeouts were way up. Call third strikes were also pretty up. It's not exclusive to South Carolina. This is in a lot of places. But the Gamecocks, those numbers were very, very large. Well, it's great to have a bunch of walks. That also came with a ton of punch outs. What do you anticipate any of that strategy changing at all? Because coach, watching Tennessee last year, watching Texas A&M, those are the two that stand out to me, who they don't get cheated. They don't get cheated with their swings. But also when it's time to protect with 2 strikes, they had a ton of big innings that came from just, what did Coach Tanner used to call them? Duck snorts, duck snorts, and just, sawed off little dribblers.
Liners wasn't popular.
These little things, and all of a sudden it ignites this storm, and it drives you nuts if you're the opposition. Carolina has a history of being able to do that. That's helped them win the College World Series. But, I just felt like there was a lot of at-bats over the last couple of years that really didn't end up being very competitive. Have you seen anything different in the fall and in the spring?
Well, we got a meeting at 11. As I told you, I had to jump off. So there's an SEC media meeting today where the head of the SEC umpires, Paul Mainieri, comes on once a year. Last year was my first time really sitting through it. And he starts talking about things, and I'm assuming this is going to be one that comes up again because they wore him out last year on the strike zone. We all realize the plate's 17 inches. We know from whatever you want to say, knees to here. The strike zone has gotten too small for college baseball. It's ridiculous, in fact, how small the strike zone has gotten. I tell you all that, and you would think as a hitting guy, which I really kind of felt like I always was. I was a catcher, I know, but I feel like it has just really made too many people. We were having 6, 7 at bats last year, and guys would never swing.
Right.
I mean, that's nothing productive's coming from that. From the veteran coaches and veteran hitters I've ever worked for, we'll go back and look, and it's incredible your batting averages when you get multiple swings in at bat. It's incredible. I don't have the numbers with me today, and I will have them the next time. When you get 3 swings in at bat, how high your batting average becomes. Right. Because you're giving yourself a chance to swing. And you may get rid of it with some non-conference teams and get by with it, but you can't get by with it in this league. You can't be constantly 2-2, 3-2 and expect to hit a power slider or just expect to hit 97 at the top of the zone. So I'll be interested at 11 o'clock to see how they're addressing the strike zone because it's just got so tentative now. I stood at scrimmages and at least 3 times, and if anybody's ever been around Coach Jordan at Citadel, Coach Freddie Jordan, they're going to laugh at this. I do the Coach Jordan jump because he would always, when an umpire wouldn't call a strike, it was like a whole body jump.
Yeah.
And I found myself, and somebody's at scrimmage with me the other day and laughed and said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I guess it's just, how do you not call that a strike?" The catcher caught it right. The hitter even gave the old deep breath. I just took a strike. And the young guy that was umpiring was so proud to say, "Ball." And I'm like, dude. And it was funny because Coach Mainieri, I walked over later to him, and I don't know what he said, but I saw him do this. And I know it. He probably said, "Hey, man, call some strikes."
Yeah.
We got a clock going now out here trying to speed the game up. We're rushing guys here. We're rushing guys here. And then it's just ball. Call some strikes. Have I seen it different in the scrimmages? Yeah, I have. But I think it's because our pitchers, for the most part, there's been days they haven't, for the most part, attack the strike zone as well. So I think these hitters have realized Coach Rooney's kind of approach as a pitching guy, just attack the strike zone. So I'm going to get my swings. So I have seen a little maybe more aggressiveness in the scrimmages, which I hope carries on to the games. Because, yeah, it was frustrating at times last year, and I never try to voice it when I'm on the radio. But it was like, oh, swing. Just swing. Get multiple swings. Don't wait to get one swing because it's so hard to hit when you only have one opportunity to do it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like you have known Monty almost my whole life, which is just bizarre to even think about. And one of the things that Monty has long preached, he did it as a player when he played at the College of Charleston. There was no doubt it worked for him, but he's also preached it as a hitting coach, is do not get cheated. If you're going to swing the bat, do not get cheated. Yeah. And when you play in a ballpark like Founders Park, he's really not wrong in that he's double right, if you will. But also, I don't know as much as Monty does about hitting. I never will. But I also know that if you got 2 strikes, you do probably need to adjust a little bit, because you never know when the second baseman might booger one up and the next guy hits a 2-run homer.
Yep.
And we're talking about Petrie here, and everybody is honoring him outside of Baseball America. Maybe that's been their downfall.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's not an All-American, I don't really know what an All-American looks like if that's not him, but that's ridiculous. You look at his numbers last year, and by any common standard in this game, they were outstanding. I mean, he hit 21 home runs. He hit 306 playing in the SEC. Yada. But when you compare them to year one, a little bit different. Strikeouts were way up, walks were way up, batting average down 70 points. And I really truly believe it's because he didn't get enough hacks, like you were just saying just a moment ago. Smoke picks on him a little bit. I don't even know if Ethan knows this, but I'm going to out him. Smoke's like he needs to hit more doubles. But that's Justin's thing. You hit more doubles, you hit more home runs.
Yeah.
And this kid can hit home runs. Yep. So I'm really like, of every player in this lineup, the superstar is Petrie. And I am so anxious to watch him hit in his 3rd year. They didn't know who he was in his freshman year. They started figuring it out, and you couldn't stop him. Everybody made their adjustments last year. Now I'm anxious to watch him make his.
I am too. And you did your lineup earlier. I do think Nathan Hall and those guys are going to be the key. There's going to have to be guys on in front of him. As we said, Kazmir, he's going to have to be on. If guys got to be on base in front of him. Also, the guys at the bottom of the order can't just be easy outs and he only get 3 at bats. This is a guy you hope is going to get 4, in some games 5 at bats. So the entire lineup's going to be a big part of how much success can Ethan have. And the cool thing about Ethan is I watch him at scrimmages, how much he's excited when, an Evan Stone gets a hit or a dude hits a home run. So it's certainly he's all about that lineup, and he knows that as well. But I'm with you. This will be a fun year. And to think that if I were doing an All-American team, let's just say you call and say, hey, Stu, I need an All-American team. I'd probably go look at everybody else's. And if everybody else had Ethan Petrie in it, I might go, he's probably an All-American. But I guess there's a guru at Baseball America who, by the way, I think had us as a 2 seed in a regional.
Right.
But didn't have your best player having a good enough year to even be an All-American. So maybe they do know something we don't know. So maybe it's a real plus. And had us matched up, I think, with Florida again. I was picking on Kent Riker. That was the first one that came out. Obviously, there'll be a million of those where you go and who you play in before it's real. But, yeah, I do think Ethan will – he certainly, as a pitching coach, starts his report, the number one guy you got to talk about. And there'll be certain guys that just say, we're not going to pitch to him. Instead of trying to figure out how to pitch to him, they just ain't going to pitch to him. I could see, Sacred Heart, that opening weekend, holding up, just go. Because you don't even have to throw 4 pitches. So, yeah, just put him on, which will then mean if it's Kennedy Jones or Talmadge Lee Croy, those guys go have to pick up on the other side where we're talking about the guys in front of. So then it becomes a guy who are following him. So that's what's so cool when you get to start playing.
Steven in the chat box, Petrie needs 18 to tie Smoke and 19 to break the record. And I'm going to put my money on him breaking that record this year. Yeah. I've circled Kennedy Jones as one of the surprise players in the SEC. I don't think it'll be shocking to guys like us, but to the rest of the league, this league is just loaded with big leaguers. They're everywhere on every single team. Every team that they play has big leaguers on it. I think that this is the year for Kennedy Jones. He came back. His body looks good. Mentally, he's in a great spot. And from what I understand, if he's hitting behind Petrie and he wants to hit behind Petrie, I'll protect you. I want that job. We know it's a screaming whistle when it comes off the bat of Kennedy Jones, Coach. How have you viewed his preseason offensively?
Well, I think the big thing with Kennedy this year is, will they use him as an everyday outfielder who hits, or does he become a DH who hits? And I don't – and we've talked about it before. It's totally different when you're a DH. I've seen him in that role a little bit already in a scrimmage. So I think he certainly has a maturity to be a DH who learns how to handle that role. I think right now he really wants to be in the outfield as well too. But I've seen a very mature at bats. He's going to strike out some. I mean, that's just who he is. But he gets his swings, as you said. He doesn't get cheated, and then it's at the point now. The pitching coach, Coach Rooney's already probably pitched to him about 100 times this year because of the fall preseason. Now this preseason, so this is the time of year I used to tell hitters, try to go ask them why they're throwing you a slider 3 times in a row or whatever to let's see. Maybe they see something. But I just can't imagine when he gets to face other teams. As that guy you're facing, Ethan Petrie, your heart's racing, you're not breathing as good. And if you're able to get him out or not get him out, are you able to mentally be prepared to face another guy in Kennedy Jones who is incredible maturity? To get him back, I think is going to be a kind of as you said, surprise. I think is one of the most least talked about big things that could have happened to this team. We always talk new players, transfers, but sometimes it's who you can keep. And the way it turned out, they were able to keep him because the draft didn't favor him the way I thought it could. He wanted to come back. I think he could be a huge part of this.
Yeah, I 100% agree. This could end up being one of the best 3-4 tandems in the league if those two guys are able to do what they're capable of doing. Speaking of the league, Coach, I know we got about what do we have with you? 7 minutes left, I think, right?
Sounds right.
7 minutes, yeah. Speaking of the league, nothing's any different from ever. Carolina this year, the challenge is as difficult as it always is. They've got a trip to number 1 ranked Texas A&M, 3rd ranked LSU will be in town, 4th ranked Tennessee will be in town. I don't think they don't draw. Yeah, they do. Yeah, that's right. They sure do. They got to go to 5th ranked Arkansas. They got midweek up there in Charlotte against 6th ranked North Carolina. 10th ranked Florida is in town. I mean, this is just, I don't have to keep going. I think I've pretty much summed it up, right? How many teams in this league, and it's not like you've been at practice for all of them, but based on what we know is coming back, and we're pretty decently aware of who is where. How many in this league do you think can make it in Omaha?
Ooh. You got me. I was going a different direction because I'm thinking this is a year where you may see 13 teams make a regional. That's how good this league is. Maybe even just start saying, because we got 16 teams now, right? But I can't imagine you can't say at least 6 to 8 of these teams, barring you got to see who keeps healthy. Like you said, Texas A&M. Listen to this crazy stat. Texas A&M's ranked number 1. They got the youngest head coach, mind you, if I'm right, in the league. I think he's only 36. They played 20 games this year against D1. This is on D1 baseball yesterday against their top 25. So 36% of their schedule is against the top 25. Of those 20 games, they only play 3 of them in College Station. So, Texas A&M, who's number 1 coming in because they got tremendous talent and you can see it all over. How do they handle that? We've got an ace in the hole helping us this year. We've got a guy that has been through this. Nothing's going to happen in the SEC season this year that Coach Mainieri hasn't either seen or really heard about. But when you have a coach who's 36 years old, it's going to be some weird stuff. So I'd like to break it down a little more, but shoot, JB, I can't imagine there ain't at least 6 teams, maybe 8 teams that do it. And when you start talking about you get 12 or 13 in regionals, you know how regionals go. Now, the NCAA is going to make sure you don't because they're going to match you up. They got to protect enough of their, pride not to have all SEC teams getting to host super regionals at the end. You'll be facing, Florida, South Carolina, or Georgia, LSU. But if that went undone, heck, you might say 10 teams have a chance it's going to be there. And that might not be crazy anyway.
This is just
our home schedule is nuts. If you're a fan, now all the seat backs are sold out. So don't yell at me and go, well, I wanted to buy one of those. They're all sold out. Right. For the whole season. The only thing left now is the bleacher and standing room only. It's an incredible SEC home schedule. And then you throw Clemson in here on Sunday at 5:00. I mean, it's just
what was the meaning behind that 5:00 first pitch, by the way?
I think it's a women's basketball conflict. I believe it was a game that Sunday. I'm not sure, but that's what I was told. So it'll be odd. but I'm not really against it because that night after you've been in Greenville, so South Carolina probably go up Thursday in practice. You play Friday night at Clemson. Then you play Thursday over at Greenville. Heck, I'm kind of fine with it because you get to come home and sleep in a little bit before. I'm telling you, that Sunday 1:00 game, it was hard. If you had won 2 games, it was a lot easier. If you had lost 2, it was miserable. If it was a lot of times a rubber match, it was just mentally hard. So I do believe that's why it happened, is because of trying to make sure our teams that are in season accommodate them. But it'll be interesting to have a 5:00 game for sure.
Yeah, I know. I don't think I've ever seen that. I thought it was a TV thing. I think there's another 5:00 one in there, maybe the Tennessee weekend or something like that.
Yeah,
So
now that is TV.
that's TV. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, we should have the TV stuff. I mean, like now, it might be coming out today, as a matter of fact, or tomorrow.
Yeah, I know softballs came out yesterday, which will be SEC games and ESPN games. So, and we got some Thursdays. I mean, that's already come out. The Ole Miss is Easter weekend, but we got some other Thursday to Saturday, which is because of TV. And as you said, I think we go to Starkville, we go to Fayetteville. You go to Kentucky late in the year. Thank goodness, maybe it won't be as cold. You go to Auburn, and you just keep saying it, but the home schedule is tremendous this year.
Kentucky. Well, at least you don't have to play in an erector set up there anymore. That old ballpark was the dump of all dumps. Before we get you out of here, Coach, a couple of days ago, we got the release from the university. They have selected one of the world's best stadium designers, if you will, just to put it in simple terms. I know that, nothing at all is set in stone. There are some prelims and things like that. But just out of curiosity, in your conversations, anything that you could share that you've had with Coach Tanner over the last year or two, things that were just important to him and some of the things that they're going to do at Williams-Brice Stadium. We'll see if all that stuff stays in the plans or not. I think most of it probably will. But things that Coach Tanner, had really circled and said, this is something I really want to see here.
Well, the biggest thing that continues to move forward, they told us Monday who had been chosen. That's the premier company to get it. I think they're leaving the group that just did, I believe it was Penn State or Ohio State's renovations. This is going to be the exact same group now assigned to ours.
They did Yankee Stadium.
The Yankee Stadium. I mean, it's the who's who to get, and they wanted us. So, I mean, they came after us. Not like we went and said, hey, please do this. They came into the bid process and said, we want to do it because I don't know. Now, how many years this will take. But you and I can sit around and talk about when the old farmers market was across the street and Bojangles was right there on the corner and blah, blah, blah. I can't imagine what my kids will be talking about, because what's about to happen around Williams-Brice really is going to transform that entire area. To just say, I'm going to drive out Shot Road and Bluff, it's changing that whole area. It's already happening with college students living out there. I mean, think about when we were that age, nobody was living out there. No. And now you got really nice apartments, condos. What's happening outside the stadium is incredible, and what's going to happen. And then inside the stadium, the thing Coach Tanner, and I know Jeremiah is doing too, we try to make the day even better for our fans, which now with all the music, the lights, it's like going to a play. Really. I mean, it's not just going to a football game. People are getting in there just begging to get in early so they can see the band get ready. And the Darius' song hits with about 20 minutes before the game. And how do we just keep making people want to be in Williams-Brice? And what's cool about it is it's going to give people a chance to be in Williams-Brice more than on game days. So all these type improvements are going to create the vision is that be a 365 functional stadium, which makes so much sense with what it is. It's just going to be super. I try to sneak into meetings. They kick me out a lot because I don't need to be in them to hear it. And I'm the one of the old fans. I tell them about what it used to be here, and they go, thanks, Coach Lake. Thanks. But I can tell you it's going to be so cool. Your kids describing what Williams-Brice was and tailgating with you to their kids, your grandkids, is going to be incredible, because it's going to be even more drastic change than what you and I can do with the old farmers market and those type things.
Those were some warm days in that farmers market. Whatever you do not get rid of Bojangles. We gotta need to have a Bojangles. Next week, Coach, we talk about the ball game. I just can't wait for that. Safe travels to Jacksonville. I did check on Hayden last night. I believe he's hitting 1,000 this season. Is that correct?
How about that? That's what I told him. Just don't get any more bats. If you do, walk.
Get out of there.
Do that. And but no, it's fun to see him. And as I've said this before, he plays for Coach Medlin. I played for Coach Medlin 35 years ago. And to just sit there, went over last night, took Hayden and his roommate Jace to Chick-fil-A after a game, and it's just cool to still see them having fun and really being college baseball. And they got a good weekend this weekend, going down to Jacksonville, play some really good teams and great weather. So it'll be fun. They come back, and before you know it, they're right into conference play already. And
that's crazy.
It'll be rolling along. They play so many games so fast. Like we're saying, softball, they're going to have 5 decisions by Sunday. It's incredible how fast it'll go. And then they got a midweek, and then they do it all over. They'll be playing their double-digit game next Friday, almost when we start baseball. That's just how fast their season goes, too. So, again, super excited for Ashley. I'm going to have it on. Kate Crenshaw's doing all their SEC Plus or whatever it calls. I get to listen, and I'm going to sneak in the booth a few times this year with him and get to do that with softball. So I'm excited about that as well.
Well, we're excited for that and to be able to listen to you on the radio. Always excited to have you on Fridays and sometimes Thursdays here on our program as well. I look forward to getting up there tomorrow too and watching her ladies play. But thank you, Coach. Safe travels down to the Sunshine State.